Okay, let's go ahead and get started there, everybody. Welcome back to another Strange Virgin stream. Well, the coding portion of the stream, at least. So we're going to be getting back into um, the Terraria mod. I had an idea about trying to put together a mod for the Calamity, or to try to make a UI for Calamity. We'll see if they ever like bring it into Calamity itself. Um, but uh, I had an idea, didn't really find a mod that did what I was kind of thinking about doing. So I figured, well, I wanted to kind of keep my programming skills as up to date as I possibly can. And modding can be a good practice ground. Um, so last time, which was a couple days ago, 2 days ago, we started, we were working on the tutorial sword, building all of that up and the like. Um, So let's see. Do we have the... Okay, well, it's having a hard time trying to find the... It's having a hard time... Ah, there it is. Okay. I was about to say, I'm like going, hello? Can you show up a little bit? All right. So there's that. Let me go ahead and reduce down the window size here a little bit so you guys can kind of understand, like, so I was on the portion of experiment a little at the very end there. Okay, we had basically used their tutorial sword, modifying, some of their values and the like, looking at what you can kind of do, doing the build and reload for the mod, and so on and so forth to, create the tutorial sword, you know, as a simple, basic, like hello world style of code. So it was nice. It was a nice introduction, to the world of, how to create something very simple in Terraria. But obviously, I have a lot to get through if I want to have a user interface mod that works the way I want it to. Um, so, um, so the next portion of their, of this, you know, basic tModder, modding guide here is that they're going to go on to the next steps here. Now, for the just to let you folks know, most likely I will have the Visual Studio Code window maxed out to full size. So if you want to follow along with what I'm looking at in terms of the instructions, which to be honest, I should probably put it over here on my other window. Just take a look at that particular web page, and you can follow along right then and there. So you can kind of, I'll be reading it obviously, so you can kind of try to follow along as much as you can. If you're trying to like code along with me, and you might be, and maybe you struggle, or maybe I struggle, obviously you can kind of pause or whatnot. But okay, so next steps. Now that you have a simple mod with a simple sword, it's time to branch out and learn other skills. Take it slow and experiment with something you want to learn. If you're seeking help from other modders on the forum or Discord, it's best to phrase your question in terms of vanilla things. For example, if you're curious how the Molten Fury changes wooden arrows to flaming arrows, it would be wise to ask, how does the Molten Fury change the projectile it shoots only when wooden arrows is used as ammo? Phrasing your questions in this manner is most effective. Continue reading to learn more about tModLoader and how to get better. Sure. um, Obviously, there's probably going to be a lot of folks out there that has already done a lot of videos already about modding. So, um, so I'm probably not going to be the only tutorial reference in this, um, but yeah. Okay. How do I reference things in my mod from other files? Um, in this mod, you could put something for your subscribers, but that's just an idea. Well, that's the thing. I can always, you know, the author can be placed, so that is always going to be a, you know, um, like I can't necessarily go, I could put like, Strange Bro Gym underscore like TTV or something like that if I really wanted to, even though technically I'm not on Twitch anymore. Or YTV, if I really wanted to be that much. Okay, but let's face it, some modders already have channels out there, so you could probably look up mods generated from other people already, and you could probably find their channels. They probably already have YouTube channels out there, or at least a good majority of them might have. So, um, So, but don't worry. I plan on actually putting my channel name as the author. So, and I'll probably put it like in the description, like, hey, if you want to learn how I went about building this in like the description of said mod, I'll have like a link to the playlist or something like that. You know, um, but that's further down the line. We're not going to get there yet. Okay, we're just going to worry about trying to learn on the overall tutorials first, learning the basics, and then later on when I'm comfortable with how to actually code in for the Terraria mods in C Sharp, um, then I'll be making the mod that I had the idea for. So, but for right now, we're just gonna have to take it one step at a time. Don't wanna um, don't wanna jump the gun too early on this one. So, um, okay. So, um, one of the first things modders seek to do is shoot a custom projectile from a custom weapon or any other similar behavior that requires classes in your mod to reference other classes. To do this, we make use of the mod content.something type methods, where something is replaced with item, projectile, NPC, etc. For example, if you want your mod item to shoot a specific mod projectile, in your mod item.setDefaults method, you would write item.shoot is equal to mod content.projectile type my projectile class name. Conversely, shooting a projectile from the ordinary game would be item.shoot is equal to projectile ID dot wooden arrow friendly, or something similar. So okay, I mean there's going to be a lot of API references or references to um, to the hooks that they're referring to, whether it's for the Terraria itself, for the vanilla, or for other mods as well. For example, I'm probably going to be using a lot of hooks in mine because I'm gonna the idea is that I'm gonna be referencing pretty much all weapons. So, or at least maybe not all of them, but close to all of them. So not only am I going to be trying to reference I'm going to be referencing the vanilla hooks. I'm going to be referencing the Calamity hooks. I'm going to be referencing, you know, hooks to mods that Calamity uses. I mean, it's going to be a mess. um, the way I'm looking at, you know, the idea that I have for my mod, it's it's going to be a mess. I'm already kind of looking at the sheer size of or the scope of what I'm planning on doing, and I'm already kind of in a sense dreading it because it's a lot. You know, I already know that it's going to be a lot, but it would make my life a little bit easier if I can get it done. And if I can make my life a little bit easier, then hopefully it'll make someone else's life just as easy, right? So, alright. So how do tModLoader hooks work? First, they are technically not hooks. We simply call them hooks because it is easy. A hook is a function that you can use as a modder. Okay. Which hooks are available depends on the class you're working in. For example, your My class has a load hook, which is a function special to the My class. Every one of these functions is virtual. This means the function has a basic implementation but can be overridden by the modder if desired. This means when you want to use a hook, you override it. This is why the word virtual is replaced with override. Since the virtual partial implementation is overridden, that implementation will be lost. To see the standard implementation of hooks, you will use the source documentation. Now, obviously, if you have no coding background whatsoever, a lot of these words were probably lost on you. A lot of these are very common in C and C++, um, and C Sharp, obviously. Um, the As well as Java. So it's one of those things where it's like, you if you are aware of object-oriented programming, then you should have, an understanding of the words that we just covered here. If you don't know, then obviously they tried to explain it as much as they could here, but if you're still not really getting it, I mean, obviously there's other tutorials about how to understand each of these concepts a little bit better. Um, and it's a little difficult for me to kind of explain myself. I mean, I can try to explain, but I think they did a decent job of doing this already. Um, you know, their explanation is about as good as I can probably give, to be honest. So, um, without like getting into like even more nitty gritty. So, all right. Hooks are basically opportunities for mods to run code. Each hook is called at an appropriate time in the update loop of the game. For example, there's a hook called mod item.shoot. This hook is called each time the game determines that the weapon item should shoot a projectile. The modder overrides the hook by writing code, and that code will be executed when the weapon item shoots a projectile. So use the Roblox code language? Okay. I mean, let's see. Actually, hold on. Let me. Is the Roblox code based off of? Um, it's Lua. Okay. Yeah, that's a common coding language. So Roblox has adapted the Lua programming language to their platform, and games are made with a derivative of the language Lua named Luau. So, um, so basically, what you are learning in a sense with the Roblox code language is you know, is the programming language of Lua, you know, Lua. So, I mean, if you like what you're doing with coding up, coding up items in Roblox, then you're basically learning a language. They're tank gaming. So, um, and while um, I haven't seen too many companies use Lua in terms of like as a like a professional, um like you wouldn't necessarily find Lua in like a corporate office, right? Um you'll most in a corporate office you'll most likely see like C, C++, or Java, for example, in a corporate setting. Um, it still doesn't hurt if you're wanting to kind of get more into the coding languages. You know, Lua isn't bad. You know, it's a good takeoffs language. So keep on playing away with it. You know. All right. Let's see. Hook usage example. Let's imagine you want to do something while an item is in an inventory. Similar how to the cell phone item works. First, we open up the source documentation and search for the mod item documentation. Having found this page, use Control F to search the page for something related to what we want. In this case, searching for inventory and reading the results. You might find the update inventory method. The documentation tells us that this hook lets us make things happen when this item is in the inventory, which is what we want. To use this hook, we copy the method signature into our ModItem class. So virtual void Terraria ModLoader, ModItem, update inventory, and then player. So if you remember from above, we must change virtual to override. We must also remember to trim the method name down. This code is in the mod item class, so you can get rid of the Terraria mod loader mod item. Finally, we can make sure you tell the computer that this player class is. We do that by adding using Terraria at the top of our CS file. After adding opening and closing curly braces, we finally have our hook ready to write code in. So, um, hmm. This doesn't necessarily give me a lot of, um, hmm. Now, okay, based off of the tutorial up above here, where they basically showed you how to go about writing up the tutorial sword, this portion down here doesn't necessarily do that. So for example, let me you know make the code full screen here. Um, so in this portion of the tutorial sword, right? Um, in the hook usage example, where they're talking about the wanting to modify the um, what was it? The cell phone item. Well, this isn't technically the cell phone item. This is a sword. So it's kind of difficult for us to update the inventory for a sword. You get what I'm saying? So um, So, uh, hmm. Like, I wouldn't mind trying to kind of create something here that, or, it would be nice for me to have something that I can, like, maybe put together here a little bit more. Um, to um, maybe change things up a little bit more, but hmm. Um, well, let me see if I can add it to the tutorial mod directly here, real quick. So, now this might potentially cause problems with the tutorial sword, potentially. But let me see if I can work on this cell phone item works. I'm gonna open up the mod item documentation link that they posted. Um, and um, we'll see like what I can maybe use out of it. Okay, so I'm already looking at the mod item, and it's fairly lengthy. Now, obviously, they're showing here. Let me kind of display this here real quick. Let me hide this so you guys can kind of see. You know, so we have our mod item class reference. Okay, this came from the mod item documentation link. That's right there. So um, so these are all the possible functions that are built into the mod item class that we can use, that we can reference, um, you know, that we can kind of work on um, to use to to use to our advantage, right? And as you can see, there's a lot of different functions that are associated with this particular class. So, they also have some properties that we can modify if necessary. And then, of course, this goes into the description of all said, functions, right? After the fact, you know. So, um, now, let's see. Um, hmm. Okay, let me go back to the code here real quick. Okay, so obviously, well, okay. I look at this and, you know, like I could try to put the override, void update inventory here for the tutorial sword, but like the update inventory, um, allows you to make things happen when this item is in the player's inventory. This should not be used for information accessories. Use update info accessory. So Um, but the thing is that I don't know what all you can necessarily do within said inventory, right? So, um, be careful with writing code in chat there, Tank. The um, I don't know how well code in chat is handled in on YouTube. So be careful with that. I wouldn't necessarily worry about any kind of coding um, through chat. If anything, if you want to, you can go. Oh wait, you said that you don't have Discord, do you? Hmm. Or if I remember correctly, you said that you don't use Discord. Um. Hmm. The most that I would say is try to like maybe use like the not necessarily like the chat or the stream chat. Probably use more the comment system on YouTube. But even then, that might you might have some problems with that as well. They don't necessarily take kindly too much to code being placed in the in message windows and the like. So because they're afraid that anybody that writes dangerous code could be trying to hack their systems or something like that. So be careful with that. You know. Um, all right. So like I can do the um based off their example. They're like, hey, you can override the void of update inventory, right? You know, um, and they're, saying, hey, you can upgrade their, update their inventory a little bit more. Um, how? Don't really know. They're not really showing me exactly how in their update inventory method. Like, like for example, in their set defaults, you can clearly see like, there's definitely um, um, some changes that we can do with the defaults of the item, right? Um, so, um, but yeah, um, they're not necessarily giving that to me in this particular tutorial here at this moment in time. We can greatly simplify the process of overriding hooks by using Visual Studio. Sure. Now that we have a hook in our mod item class, we can add code inside it. This code we write will depend on the effects we wish to achieve. Example mod and the advanced vanilla code adaptations guide can be helpful in finding similar snippets of code to experiment with. Which is, other links to other portions um, of what you can do. So, um, but yeah, that's definitely looking like it's more advanced than what we want to tackle at this particular moment in time. We're not there yet. I don't want to go too far on this. Um, so to be honest, I don't necessarily want to have this as a um, function within the tutorial sword. I don't want to cause any undue problems with the update inventory or anything along those lines. So we're just going to go ahead and commit, copy it out for right now, um, because I don't know all that I can put inside inside the function right at this moment in time. And I don't necessarily want to experiment at this point because I don't know what all I can do. And I don't necessarily want to be like, breaking my game either, you know. So I'm just going to not worry about it at this time. We're going to move on with the rest of the tutorial at this point. So, there are two big concepts that both correspond to integers. These two usages of integers can be inadvertently mixed up by new modders, leading to code that compiles, but it is buggy. In Terraria, all content has a unique identifier called a type. This is an integer that lets the game uniquely identify different bits of content. For example, the type of the shuriken projectile is the number 3. We used a projectile's type to run code that should affect only projectiles of that type. For example, if we use the global projectile on hit NPC hook, we can check if projectile.type is equal to the projectile ID.shuriken, then run some shuriken specific code, such as applying a debuff to the NPC. Item, NPC, projectile, dust, and many more varieties of content in Terraria all operate using a type identifier to identify the various varieties of content. The second concept is index. Makes sense. In Terraria, the game uses various arrays to hold all the active content in the world. For example, the main .projectile array holds all the instances of all the projectiles currently in the game world. Each projectile knows its own index within that array by the whoami field. Both type and index are integers. That's understandable. Leading to a situation where new modders can make a big mistake using one or the other incorrectly. For example, a modder might make the mistake of thinking projectile is equal to main projectile array projectile ID.shuriken. Would retrieve the active shuriken projectile, but it won't. It'll return whatever projectile is at that index. As a modder goes through different guides and examples, they will see proper usage of type and index. This diagram illustrates this point, showing how type and index are separate concepts while showing how they are stored in the array. So, main projectile, the index of 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then you have I'm not quite sure what these are per se by name, but it's like, looks like a hellstone, some form of gas, a bomb, looks like a gold coin, and then you got two different types of, well, I mean, actually they're the same type of shurikens, on index 4 and 5, so that's interesting. Alright, so how are modded classes set up? tModLoader provides a number of classes you can use to create your own mod content. You'll base your own classes off of these by using what's called class derivation, or class inheritance. To keep this simple, it basically means your class will use one of ours as its base. For example, your items will be based on mod item, my item class, colon mod item, where the colon mod item denotes it inherits from the mod item class, which is present in the Terraria ModLoader namespace. If you come from Java, this is the same as extends mod item. This means everything that we made for mod item becomes available to you in your class, such as the set defaults hook. Note that you can only derive from one class, so a mod item cannot be mod projectile and so forth. Alright. So learning from example mod. Example mod is a mod made by the tModLoader developers to show off various modding capabilities. It would be wise to enable example mod and play around with it for a while. Use a mod like cheat sheet to spawn in various items and find something it does that you want to learn. Next, download the example mod source code. To do this, download stable.zip and then find the example mod folder within. Take that folder and place it in the mod sources folder next to the tutorial mod folder. You can also quickly look something up by exploring stable example mod directly on GitHub. The Go to Files search field in the left of the screen can be used to quickly find a specific file. Try typing sort into the search and you can see how you can quickly find relevant files. Find a thing you're interested in and try to understand it. Hopefully it is easy to understand. You can also change things in your copy of example mod and build example mod in game to experiment. Once you handle modifying simple things in example mod or tutorial mod, you should be comfortable with the mod building process. Well, yeah, that's a little presumptuous, I would imagine, but because I mean, don't get me wrong, sure you can look at examples, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you are understanding everything that you might be seeing, for example, right? Um, so now, granted, I've played the game, so like looking at this, for example, right? This this is, you know, everything that I'm seeing here, makes sense, right? You have the damage of the item, you have the damage type, which, they're specifically going with melee. Now, what other types can there be? Don't really know. I mean, there's quite a bit that, could be potentially possible, but, I don't know exactly what they are. So, um, and to be honest, it's not even exactly something that I'm going to be interested in terms of um, making the mod that I want to make, right? Um, so, um, my brain has lost brain cells trying to understand the code. Well, I mean, if you have questions there, Tank, I can always try to answer. Feel free to ask, okay? And I will try to answer the best I can for you, okay? You have the item width and height. That makes sense. You have the use time and the use animation. So, um, so those make sense based off of the fact that you're trying to use a sword, right? You have the use style, which you can then kind of change based off of, how do you want the character to be, using said item, right? It could be a swing, it could be a bow and arrow, it could be, just trying to like, use a magic wand or something along those lines. You never know. There's multiple types of styles that you can do to handle that. You have the knockback possible for the weapon here. Okay. You have the overall value. So like if you want to sell it off to the shopkeep afterwards, you can set a price for it. Now this one is the buy price, but most likely you can do something like, I would imagine that there would be something um, where you have like the sell price as well. Here, let me see if I can. Um, um, well, okay, so there was a buy price here, which is what we're kind of referencing, right? So is there as you can see, there's a lot of, functions and the like that are associated with the item here. Let's see if we can find a cell. There is. So, but again, you know, where does that fall under, you know, um, does that go under, um, would that go under value? Um, you know, hard to say right at this moment in time. It would seem kind of strange to me to have the both the item value is equal to the buy price and the sell price. I mean, unless value has very set if unless value allows for two different values associated with it with the buy and sell, then sure, but not sure about that. Let's look at the API here real quick. And let me look up their item. So, all right, they have a very specific item in their on their web page here, right? So, um, so we can kind of look at, hey, we have the buy price, right? You know, um, and you can see here, if assigned to item value, that item will be bought for the provided value. Okay, makes sense, right? Now let's go and look at the sell item, which is, um, or the sell price. Ooh, okay. I'm not really seeing it right at this moment in time. Oh, there it is. Okay. They don't necessarily have an order. That's unfortunate, but whatever. All right. Um, so converts the provided sell value into copper coins. This value is 5 times larger than buy price. Uh-huh. If assigned to item value, the item will be sold for the provided value. Now, so here's the thing that kind of I'm wondering about here. So, let's go back to the code here. We have um, our buy price, right? And it's set to copper is equal to 1 right at this moment in time. Okay. Right now, we could purchase the sword in this particular case for 1 copper. So if there was, if we had the merchant there, we could, potentially buy the item from that merchant for 1 copper. Whether or not the merchant is, is automatically able to see the copper, I don't really know. But now, um, according to that API page, you know, the sell price is 5 times larger than the buy price. So technically, if I sold off the sword, then I should be getting back 5 copper, 5 times the price, right? So now here's where things get a little. This gets to be a little weird because what happens if I, take this code right here, and I copy it, comment it out, it's no longer working, right? And I do item.value is equal to the item sell price, and then of course we put copper equal to 1, right? Well, copper is the lowest denominator right at this moment in time. That's the lowest coin that you can have in Terraria, right? But buy price is, you know, or the sell price is 5 times larger than the buy price, right? So if it's 5 times larger, then what happens if the sell price is only 1 copper? What does that do to the buy price? Now, I'm going to make the assumption that they've already kind of accounted for that. Like they were like going, oh, hey, you know, the coder's messing up. Anything lower than 5 when it comes to copper on the sell price would automatically give you either 0 for the buy price, meaning that it's free, or it would default it to 1, basically making, the sell price and the buy price being the same, meaning you won't get any kind of benefit for selling it to back to shopkeep, for example, right? Don't really know. I'm kind of curious about this. Unfortunately, I don't really have any kind of space um, in my little log cabin for the merchant right at this moment in time. But I'm kind of curious about how it goes about doing that. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and bring in tModLoader in this, and let's see. Actually, let me go ahead and kind of keep it a small screen on here. We'll go ahead and keep the visual code there, and oh wait, we need to rebuild our mod. There we go. All right. Now, I need to make um, a um, I need to kind of make a place for the merchant for when he comes along here. Um, so okay. Don't really like the fact that, we have grass inside the house. There we go. Let's go ahead and finish off making the wall here. There we go. And then make the bench, make the chair, and now, you know, we should, you know, have the possibility of having our merchant eventually come along, but you know, we have to get a certain amount of money in order um, to kind of generate that. So what we're gonna do real quick, because right now I just need a whole bunch of money and all that, and unfortunately there isn't any way to um, there isn't any, you know, or at least I don't really know of any way that I can like quickly like, you know, hey, give me money. Um, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go back to the code here real quick, and we're gonna change our damage back to the, you know, 9,999 just to make things a little bit easy for us. We're gonna kind of keep the knockback, you know, we're gonna lower the knockback here because it doesn't really work with us right at this moment in time. Defaults to 0. That's fine. We'll leave it at that then. Um, so now, let's see. We've modified, so we need to build and reload. Go back to single player. Go back in here. Now our weapon should be at that amount of damage, which should be fine. So pretty much nothing will be able to kind of touch me per se. And I just want to be able to, you know, generate a lot of money so that I can, um, you know, be able to get the merchant as soon as I can. So obviously it's a little dark right at this time. Hmm. I just want a place where I can, you know, kill off lots of enemies really quickly. So there we go. Can I ask advice for your story? I mean, I can try to help out. I mean, I'm not exactly an expert when it comes to writing stories or anything along those lines. So I don't know how much I can really be of any like major assistance there, my friend. But you know, um, but I mean, if you appreciate my input, then you know, I can definitely try to provide some for you. You know, I'm no accomplished writer myself, so I mean, take my advice with a grain of salt. So, I do not. I have not watched any Dragon Ball Z or Dragon Ball content at all. That is the one anime that I've never watched. So, there's been, you know, some animes that I've never had a chance to completely watch. So, yeah. So unfortunately, I can't really help you too much in that. You're not writing a book, but still, I mean, um, you still want to make things like interesting as well. So, I mean, still like, writing techniques and the like. So, I don't like the fact that it's super dark here right at the moment. So, I hear zombies. Okay. I think I get like, the merchant after like 1 gold has been earned or so, I think, if I'm not mistaken. So, that's okay, but I still need help. Batman, Ben 10, Batman story. Well, I can try to help you out with you know, if it comes to Batman and Spider-Man, at least I know those characters, those fictional characters a little bit more. Can't say that I'm like a, foremost expert in them, but um, at least those characters I know. Oh my gosh, this hill. Phew. Yep, still not there yet. How do you think Batman Bruce Wayne would feel about son of Peter Parker Marcus, a 14-year-old trying to be next version of Spider-Man in this timeline? Peter and MJ are dead. Okay, well, um, that's a bit interesting of a conversation there because Batman and Spider-Man are actually part of two different universes, DC and Marvel. Batman being DC and Spider-Man being Marvel, so they don't really have any kind of formal connection. But I'm assuming that you're trying to make that connection between the two. So, um, um, but now, um, if Batman and Spider-Man somehow knew each other, because there's been like crossovers before, not very often, but there has been. Then I would imagine that the overall um, The overall mindset would probably be along the lines of like um, Batman would probably be very impressed with the overall scientific knowledge of Spider-Man. Being a very intelligent individual that Spider-Man is. But at the same time, um, they would be probably Batman would probably be very overprotective of Spider-Man. For the most part, trying to protect him from any kind of harm. And might not necessarily, you know, um, like I've never known Spider-Man to have a strong, um, um, ah, there's the merchant. Unfortunately, I don't really have any formal way of um, warping back to the house. Here, you know what? Let me, you know, let me have my character die here real quick. Um, Come on, dude. There we go. Um, okay, so now we have our merchant here. So, okay, so we see here that, um, there's not an option to buy, which is perfectly fine. I disabled, if you look at the code again here, we kind of disabled the buy price, right? So, you know, if this was enabled, then the merchant might technically be able to sell the sword that I made this tutorial sword, but I don't know. I don't know if that's possible or anything along those lines. Don't really know. But let's see what price can we sell the sword at, right? So if I hover over the sword here, then sell price is 1 copper. Okay, so um, now, so we already know now that even if it's below 5, it'll still default to 1 copper at the minimum. Okay, that's fine. Let me go ahead and save and exit here real quick because I want to kind of look at this a little bit more before we move on to our um, Genshin Impact here, or Genshin Impact portion of the stream. I want to look at, you know, is the sell price still, um, actually, hold on. Um, so I was kind of wondering if I set this to 5, it would sell at 5. Okay, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you know I could potentially buy it, right? And what happens if I uncomment this? Are we gonna have an issue with both of them being viable or both of them being available at the same time? Would it kind of cause a little bit of a conflict? Or is the sell price, you know, now typically when you're looking at code, when you are, having one line putting in a value into value here, for example, and you do another saving into that same area, that same value, then you're basically overwriting the, basically line 23 here. Okay, this line 23 is nothing. It will basically disappear. But maybe having this buy price there will kind of force the merchant to understand that it needs to potentially buy, to be able to sell the sword. I don't know. Let's find out here real quick. So we're gonna go ahead and rebuild. I'll get back to you in just a second there, Kirito. I want to finish this one off before I go further into your writing there. I want to see if the change that I made is in a sense viewable, you might say. So here, shop. Okay. Clearly we see that the merchant is not able to, we can't buy the sword from him, and of course the sell price is at 5 copper. So, now if I was to change the sell price to 0, then I would imagine that there it would have no worth. So if I was to go back here, develop mods, build and reload, go back to the single player, and we go back to trying to sell out the sword to the merchant, then no value. Makes sense. Okay, so now the fact that it's not in the merchant here is interesting. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to do one last thing real quick. And I'm going to remove the sell price here. And we're just going to do the buy price of like 1 copper, right? And let's see if, the buy price being 1 copper, if the merchant automatically sees it and adds it into their inventory, or if it's something that I have to actively add into, for the merchant itself. So let's find out here. It's a good little tester. So we now have the buy price of a copper, so the shop, and nothing there. Okay, so this basically tells me that even though I can set the buy price for the sword, it doesn't automatically set it to a particular NPC. So I would, most likely I would have to like find the specific NPC character, and I would have to add my modded weapon into their shop. So, but obviously that's going to have to be for another time. We've run out. We're actually kind of going a little bit over what I intended for, but that's okay. We're going to go ahead and end it here. Okay, so let me get back to Kirito's conversation here real quick. This world, Batman knows about Spidey, but never met him. He does not mind Marcus facing normal crime, but he hates when Marcus try to go after people like the Joker, for example. But this would make things even harder for Batman about Marcus. Okay, so well, here's the thing. Batman tends to respect people that can kind of take care of themselves. Otherwise, he would never have like the sidekicks that he has, like say like Robin, for example. And he's had multiple Robins over the years. Robin, Nightwing, Batgirl, so on and so forth, right? for whom he's, he's kind of respected a little bit, but obviously he still tries to protect them as much as he can, obviously, but he knows like, hey, um, you know, um, they're not necessarily wimps along those lines either. Um, so when it comes to Spider-Man, he'd probably be able to, like, you're saying that Spider-Man, he doesn't know who Spider-Man is. Well, guess what? Being the world's greatest detective that he is, he'll be able to figure it out. He'll be able to figure out who Spider-Man is, who Peter Parker slash Spider-Man is, find out where they live, find out, what they can do, and so on and so forth. And it may even find ways to counteract Spider-Man himself. Um, so find out ways to basically dissolve Spider-Man's weapon. So if like Spider-Man was to ever try to like bind him up, he'd be like, yeah, no, this is what are you trying to do? And dissolve their weapon, right? But being, so he'd probably be able to kind of I would say probably be able to like respect Spider-Man's strength and overall ability, but would still probably worry about them in like their back of their mind about going after like some of the like the major villains, um, like he would Batman would probably be very worried about like if like Robin or Spider-Man were to go after say like the Joker themselves, right? Like you were saying with the Marcus. Um, so he'd probably want to try to find some way of, um, you know, doing a joint effort to try to stop Joker, you know, together, than trying to say, okay, Robin, okay, Spider-Man, go ahead and, try to tackle Joker yourself. He's most likely one of those that would basically say, like, hey, um, you know, I've handled Joker before. I know, what to do against Joker, and even then, he catches me by surprise. Um, so he'd probably be worried about anybody else that would kind of go after them, unless he knew that they could kind of handle themselves. Like he probably wouldn't be too concerned over, like, say, Superman going after Joker, for example, right? So that's all. He'd probably have a little bit of concern about kids going after supervillains like Joker and the like, um, but that's probably it. You know, like if Spider-Man was able to like show off that they can handle themselves even against supervillains such as Joker, then he probably wouldn't necessarily worry about them too much. So, so that's all. Okay, that's gonna be it for today's Terraria modding session. Um, let's see. There is a little bit left on that page about um, learning in steps, slowly learning, mining tips and guidelines, and so on and so forth. Um, I'll probably go over that next session, but there really isn't that much else on this particular page. So we're probably going to be moving on to another tutorial page for next time. So look forward to that. We'll try to continue this tomorrow. Um, but yeah, that's going to be it for this session. We're going to switch on over to Genshin Impact. So stay tuned for that. But that's going to be it for this video. Um, So for those of you that are watching this strictly on YouTube, thank you for watching. A like and subscribe would be fantastic, would help out. Check out the playlist for all the content that I do, the coding streams, the gaming streams, as well as like the various you know life things that I've done as well. Um, so there's a lot of playlists, a lot of content, a lot of VODs. So you know, uh, a lot there for you to digest if you wish. Um, but that's going to be it for today's tutorials, coding sessions. So hopefully you enjoyed that, but that's where we're going to go ahead and close on down for tonight in terms of the coding session. So I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording right here.